45th Infantry Division was the first Allied unit to enter the camp. That happened on 29 April 1945. 45th Infantry Division, as part of the 7th Army, was moving towards the city of Munich, where we anticipated a very, very heavy fight, like the Army had already endured moving through Nuremberg. However, en route to the city of Munich, Colonel Sparks's battalion received a side order while they were in movement. And so Colonel Sparks himself took his reserve element and went to check out what was thought to be a German military installation, which would wind up being on the division's right flank, and we didn't want to leave that thorn in our side. He arrives on the scene to find not a German military installation, but a concentration camp. They approach the main gate. He considered that if the Germans were going to defend this area, that they would probably have machine guns trained on that gate. He then moved to his left, wound up entering the camp through the railway yard. And the first indication they came across that they had encountered something other than what he thought was 40 railway cars sitting on a siding filled with emaciated and dead human beings. These guys were shocked, sickened, literally sickened to their stomachs at what they saw in Dachau. They entered the camp, rounded up the German guards. They liberated the camp. His orders were to let no one in or out, because the division commander realized there were going to be a lot of sick and diseased people there who were going to need help. So they secured the compound. He turned over control of the camp to his Charlie Company. Ultimately, I think they were there for about 3 days. Ultimately, Charlie Company turned it over to elements of the 179th Regiment for a while, and then ultimately, of course, 7th Army took it over, and then the real aid and the real assistance began to flow in for the people there. Well, the collections here at the museum relative to the liberation of the camp at Dachau are few, but they're very interesting artifacts. Those that I have in this case to my immediate right here are actual artifacts that were picked up by members of the 45th Infantry Division from the camp itself and brought home as souvenirs. The large Nazi flag was removed from the administrative building. We've got an SS NCO's cap here that was picked up off the grounds. You see these bludgeons here that are on chains. They are designed to collapse in. At the very bottom of them, they have the initials SIPO, which stands for Sicherheitspolizei, or Security Police. And these were the batons that were used in the camp to punish the inmates. The come-alongs you see here are also quite common in Europe. But the Nazis had quickly learned that you could wrap these around a person's wrist and twist them, and it would break the wrist muscles. We have another interesting piece right behind you over there. It's a piece of Allach porcelain. Allach is an interesting story. It was a factory that manufactured porcelain items. It was owned and operated by the SS. It was designed to raise money for that organization, and they made all kinds of interesting things. The interesting part about that piece is that the fellow who brought it back found it in a damaged home in Dachau. He picked up the porcelain piece and he put it in a pillowcase, carried it on his person for the remainder of the war, carried it on the boat coming home from Europe, carried it on the train across the United States to Seattle, where he called home, and it stayed there on his shelf for 50-something years until he passed away and his family donated the piece to us.